let's now proceed even with our next talk, which kind of revolves around ethics and AI. So something that dictates our lives, ethics. How does that play a role in how we build artificial intelligence systems and how they make decisions that align with our morality as human beings? So that's something that Mr. Imranmoinuddin is here to talk about. Imran is the founder and CEO of Next Degree, where his company focuses on building data analytics and AI solutions for customers across the world. He holds a degree in computer science from Stanford University and is also the founding president of the Stanford Club of Pakistan. While in the United States, Imran has worked as a consultant and research analyst for numerous clients from both the private and the government sector. Mr. Imran, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, guys. Can you guys see me okay? Guys, do you see me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Let me just share my screen and we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you. And okay, let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Yes, we can see this.
All right, guys. Thank you very much, both 10PEARLS and to the summit organizers. This is a topic that is very close to our heart. Given the work that we've been doing in this space. So without further ado, we're going to move forward. While the intention is pretty much to draw your attention to something that gets called out for being a very boring topic in AI. We are admittedly at a point in time where there are perhaps more questions than there are answers around the ethics of what we're building. But fundamentally, the hope of this talk is that it really leads to good, constructive discussion and discourse. Just as a quick background, again, at Next Degree, we're a team of curious problem solvers that advise, build, and deliver clever solutions for our customers around the globe. We're never shy to admit when we don't know something, but that said, we do spend a significant amount of time working in R&D as well. Personally, I'm a techie at heart. I've worked in the biometric space as well, and I've been running Next Degree now for more than a decade. So anyways, let's go ahead and get moving forward. So artificial intelligence, I'm not here to kind of give you guys a lecture on deep learning or the latest kind of reinforcement learning techniques, right? So I'm actually going to try to force you guys to all think big picture. And I think the simplest way to do it is to give a slight twist on the definition. And artificial intelligence, basically, in its current state, is a very precise and efficient form of mimicry. And theoretically, you can kind of break down AI into two types. You've got the weak or narrow AI, which is more purpose focused, it's more use case driven. So something that can forecast sales or something that can determine if something's a dog or a cat. That's very specific. And the second piece is basically referred to as strong AI, which is falling in the domain of artificial general intelligence, which, at least to present day, experts acknowledge is still some ways away. So that is basically at a very high level, artificial intelligence, mimicry, very purpose-built. Now let's move forward. Now, I don't have to talk necessarily about the details of the use cases of how AI has done wonderful things for us, right? We have autonomous vehicles. We have a case where language translation is no longer an issue. Where from an accessibility perspective, now people who don't have limbs can move things with their mind. You can create new musical works in the style of a composer from the 1700s. It has changed how we do radiology and identify diseases faster. And at the same time, deciding what to watch a lot faster over our favorite streaming service over the weekend through excellent recommendations. Those are all the great things that, for example, AI has contributed in our life. But then, on the flip side, the not so good. Now, when it comes to drawbacks, the issue isn't so much as robots sort of taking over the world as much as it is a case of where AI can empower individuals and groups in the wrong way. There is a famous Compass algorithm, which is basically a system that was used by the criminal justice system in the US to identify reoffenders, it proved to be highly controversial since research showed that the algorithm was generating a lot of false positives for Black citizens. Now, even when it comes to, let's say, even robot dogs that look really cute while dancing to Uptown Funk, suddenly when it gets a gun mounted to its back, it doesn't really look so cute anymore, does it? Talking about highly realistic deepfakes can end up potentially, dare I say, starting nuclear wars, destroying families, exploitation of men, women, and very sadly, children. When we talk about even Facebook, while their intention was never really to exploit their users, but unfortunately, the platform became a basis for it to really play into our habits and our vulnerabilities. And where things in the interest of commercial benefit and shareholder profitability, some suboptimal decisions were taken as a result. Now, when you think about even metaverse that they've been pushing very hard, which is this whole augmented reality universe that they want to go ahead and create, how much due diligence has truly been done to determine what's going to happen to our relationships, to our social well-being, and our sources of stress. Besides, social media, we're also talking about algorithms that drive financial markets. You're talking about mass surveillance becoming easier. And, at the same time, where the broader usage of AI is causing us to use more energy, and subsequently its impact on climate and pollution is not something we can ignore anymore. But at the same time, when we think about the challenge that is in our hands right now, the engineers who basically built and deployed these AIs did not intend for it to be channeled towards hate speech or bias, right? There are questions that we have to ask ourselves. Is it morally acceptable to kick an AI robot dog? Now, based on Kant, who's basically like a very famous 18th century philosopher, one could argue that while a dog may not get hurt, it breaches our own qualities of kindness and being humane. That in some indirect way, we're actually damaging our own moral character. And as current AI, when we talk about moral urgency, doesn't really carry its own moral urgency. Its ability to feel emotion, hold mental states, and free will, that is. The question is, who is responsible when AI makes a decision that actually leads to harm? Like in 2018, when Uber's self-driving car caused the death of a pedestrian, there were questions who to hold responsible. The AI couldn't explain itself. So was it the user or the user of the car, the operator of the car? Was it the car company? Was it the state itself? Normally, we expect to be able to explain ourselves when something bad happens or goes wrong. But what happens in the case of AI? And just so you know, in the Uber case, it was the operator of the car who had the ruling go against them. And because AI affects a lot of different stakeholders, whether it's workers or patients or governments, etc., how much of a say do these stakeholders really have in what gets built and deployed? And can that become the basis of a new form of discrimination? Now, for those of us who work in the technical field of AI know that artificial neural networks have this very difficult, issue of transparency. It works like a black box, right? You can't really see what's going on inside of them. And sometimes businesses too end up choosing to be non-transparent in the interest of making sure that, you can drive improved shareholder profitability. And even now, what's a little bit frightening too is that there is a growing drive towards something called transhumanism, which is where we are augmenting our human capabilities with AI-enabled technologies. And that basically drives, or rather, basically this drive then implies that we as humans are becoming the technological subject. What does that mean? A lot of questions from the challenge perspective. Now, what do we really look at when ethics have to look at something against which they come up with, techniques to mitigate? When we look at sort of these broad areas that are on the slide, are we okay with Alexa, Google, or Facebook listening in our conversations to give us better targeted ads? Cambridge Analytica demonstrated how data and AI could be harnessed to manipulate politics and political outcomes. Fake news creates a lot of confusion about what is the truth, where specifically our vulnerabilities are being targeted. And time and again, research has shown that an increased use of technology leads to less meaningful relationships. We end up expecting more from the technology, but less from each other. And all the while we're high on dopamine because, I'm hitting like and share and all that fancy stuff. So our digital companions at the end of the day truly a substitute for our friends and family. And finally, while we're networked, the privacy of our entire digital lives is literally like a data breach away. And we all see, like Dr. Sohail in his earlier talk was saying that, look, there's an expanded area of vulnerability that we need to be more cautious about. So policymakers have been working hard to offer, guardrails to manage AI, right? So what's encouraging is that even though there are a lot of independent initiatives, the general concepts are all aligning fairly well. And in the earlier black box risk that we had identified, there is a push to kind of drive explainable AI, where we can see not only the decision being made, but how the AI arrived at that decision. So the transparency will obviously lead to more trust, and explainability is a necessary condition for responsible and accountable behavior in decisions. So efforts have been undertaken by governments. So the UK House of Commons and France have adopted, policies around, both explainable and meaningful AI. Another area that you see here around bias, we have to work to attempt to reduce bias at the various stages of our development of advanced AI products. So, however, the challenge here is that it is controversial, because what happens in a situation where we're dealing with an underrepresented or a disenfranchised population? So, for example, in the US, you have affirmative action, providing a platform for, for parts of the community to go ahead and rise up in society. But at the end of the day, when you look at some of these other areas around human dignity, human freedom, justice, do no harm, these were areas that were really articulated by the high-level expert group on artificial intelligence that I think came up with this in 2018. But the challenge then comes. All of these look great on a slide, but what would enforcement of these look like? Not that easy. So how did we get here? Let's face it. We're grossly enamored with the new and shiny. We want to see what we look like when we're 70 through our filters, and we are just used to performing our one-click purchases on recommendations we get for our gadgets on Amazon. And yet we continue to struggle to answer the most, what seem to be the simplest of questions. Can humanity be explained scientifically? So the problem is that while technology has grown exponentially, the social sciences have not kept pace. So things like sociology, psychology, philosophy have not really kept up to pace, particularly in a globe living with an unsatiable appetite for the next big thing, right? So who is asking then the questions around whether particular innovations, or AI for that matter, have put us in a better or worse off position as individuals, and dare I say, even as a civilization? So even when we look at AI, why are we in the habit of looking at intelligence as humanity's main feature, as its primary feature? There are other things that make us human, whether it is our emotions and our consciousness and our inspiration. So when we look at AI and we're worried about robots taking over, somehow intelligence seems to be the only criteria. Not true. So anyways, a lot of these ethical challenges that we're facing are also fundamentally rooted in our lack of understanding ourselves and the conscious core of our choices. So now it isn't all gloom and doom. AI has forced us to look at ourselves and ask deeper, introspective, inward-facing questions, and really forcing us to ask questions about how we think and what our relationship is to the broader biosphere, whether it's animals or whether it's the forests and jungles. And it's open, critical, healthy debate around human knowledge, around human society, around what defines morality. So that said, AI may not yield all the answers to what we are highlighting here, but it is certainly acting as a catalyst to get to those answers. So it's not a lost cause. Now, what do we do in terms of action when it comes to building a platform for AI ethics? Now, like I said, in the absence of AI not being able to exercise morality, it's important to hold humans responsible for what the AI does and to be able to provide an explanation when harm does occur. Now, AI practitioners who work in this field need to think beyond the technology and think through the implications of their work. Now, if you look at policies at the state level, the State Council of China acknowledges that AI is disruptive to human society and privacy and safety. So efforts at this current point in time can now be undertaken towards prevention and risk management. Nick Bostrom, who wrote the famous book, Superintelligence, even suggested that collaboration between researchers can help drive proactive safety measures and controls in development and adoption of advanced technologies. Even at the academic level, when it comes to researchers, institutions such as Stanford, Cambridge, University of Montreal, they're all pushing hard towards inclusion and AI and taking steps to restrict manipulation and propaganda that can be, that can kind of ride on the coattails of AI to minimize those instances. Even corporates, whether it is Microsoft, Intel, Amazon, Apple, and even Facebook, they're all trying to push towards fairness, safety, and inclusiveness by defining clear policies internally. Now, some basic predictions about the way forward. Now, truthfully, this is again a personal opinion. I personally think that artificial general intelligence is not going to be something for us to worry about in the very near future, where, as people like to say, AI starts becoming sentient. However, there's a huge caveat to that. That can change if science, coupled with biology, with neuroscience, and other technology disciplines, is able to capture the interactions between the individual biological neurons and their states. Is this risky? Yeah, it is. Because AI, for the first time, could then have a window through, could have a window where it could basically identify patterns of how humans think, respond to stimuli or come up with new ideas. It is exciting, but that does beg an end to then privacy at that point in time. Now, in terms of the dangers posed by modern day AI, it could be risky because, it would be expected that risky AI could basically rely on other forms of AI, okay, to go ahead and drive interesting outcomes, to drive accountability for AI that we feel a little bit uncomfortable by. So, moving on. The question is, what can we achieve in our ability to work as humans? Okay, what can we do as individuals? What we need to do is that we need to spend more time understanding the elements that make us individuals, that make us human beings, and spending more time really asking the difficult questions and really trying to boil out what the bigger picture is and the broader vision is for our lives. We need to kind of nurture that internal, that innate ability to think across domains, to think across disciplines, to really drive our ability to think cross-functionally beyond simply the technology that makes AI interesting. So by all means, we should use AI to complement the work that we do and improve our interactions. Now, that said, what is important for us to realize that what makes us innately human? It's wisdom and intuition. So seek solace in that fact, seek peace in that fact, that the real wisdom and intuition is going to come from within ourselves as humans. Now, that said, we don't know right now. There may come a point where AI could actually help us become better humans. With that, I come come to the end of my presentation. For those of you who are interested in reading more about the subject, I have put in some recommended reading on the right here. It's a book written very appropriately, AI Ethics by Mark Bokelbrook. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them on. Thank you. I'm assuming you guys can still hear me, though, right?
Yes, we can still hear you. So I think that's about it. I don't
think we did
okay,
get one
we
question.
did get one question. Yes. So the question, can you see on the question answers screen or the chat screen? Can you please answer that?
I'm just looking for it. I actually do not see the question.
Okay, let me read it out for you. So the question is, using third-party apps such as WhatsApp and so on, it is not very privacy oriented. Is there any development being done to create our own local applications for such services as cashless cities?
Okay, I think that might have been a question for Dr. Sohail, though.
Yeah, I think it seems to be the case. So that's perfectly fine. I think, sorry, that's perfectly fine. I think that's basically it. Thank you so much for your talk. We really appreciate it. And then I think